What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, where today, for the first time for the 2026 home and away season, we are going to be getting our tips in. This has been a very quick preseason, I feel, a very quick off-season. I always complain about the time spent between the grand final coming to a close in one year and then the opening round coming for the next season, but I feel we blinked and it's just manifested itself. An opening round is all but a couple of days away. I am still very reserved in my opinions about opening round. I know some people at home share the sentiment. When it comes to trying to expand the game and get more exposure into rugby-based states like Queensland and New South Wales, I am all for it. What I am against is having certain teams miss out. This should just be a round where every single team is involved and we don't have extra buys thrown in the mix and we don't have all this other fucking, interruptions happening during the season. I just want a cohesive and coherent year from start to finish, for the love of fuck. I'm not just excited because football is back as a Richmond fan, but as an AFL fan. I am one of those purists that like to sit down and watch every single game of football over the course of a given weekend, and this is the perfect time of year for me anyway. There's no time better than when the AFL is on. I just have such a huge love and appreciation for our great game, and this coming weekend, opening round, 5 games of football to dive into. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's dive on in and let's get those tips locked down. The first game to open the season is a grudge match between Sydney and Carlton. Why a grudge match, you ask? Well, obviously, Charlie Curnow has gone from Carlton to Sydney, and we have had Ollie Florent as well as Will Hayward jump over to Carlton. So we have players from their old teams facing off against each other. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. The fact that this game is being played at the SCG weighs heavily in Sydney's favour. Sam Walsh back for Carlton adds something a little bit extra into that midfield mix for them. Jarvis Smith looks like he's already got one hand on the Rising Star Award. He looks absolutely sensational. The only worry I have for Carlton is the lack of tall timber up forward. Without Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay is going to have to carry his own this year, and we have seen him win a Coleman during that kind of process of having to run it on his own, but can they find sustainability? They've just had 2 huge games over the preseason where they have scalped both grand finalists from last year. They defeat Brisbane, they defeat Geelong, and they think the lid is off. But we can't buy into preseason outcomes because let's not forget, West Coast last year absolutely belted Richmond in the preseason and ended up only winning 1 game for the season proper. So we can't put much stock into outcome, but we can look at individual performances. We can look at how players are shaping up, how some systems might fall into place. I'm backing Sydney here because Sydney, for me, the only killer for their 2025 campaign was the fact that they were missing a cohesive forward line. Everybody was out injured. Joel Amati was in and out. We rarely saw Logan McDonald. Tom Papley couldn't stay fit. We now have all of those players coming back into circulation, but we now have Charlie Curnow as our main figurehead. And when you've got the likes of Errol Goulden, who's going to be hitting this bloke lace out, I have tipped this year not only for Sydney to potentially finish top 4, but Charlie Curnow to go on and win the Coleman in his first year at Sydney. So they are going to start their year off with a win. As for the margin, how big are we going to go here? I might go 27 points. Let's type that one in. I'm going to go 27. I think this is going to be a comfortable win for Sydney. It's going to be a loss that I think shakes Carlton a little bit to its core, given, the preseason performances. But again, I don't think we can put too much stock into those. Carlton are going to have a really rough year this year. I think the loss of TDK in the ruck, I think the loss of Charlie Curnow up forward, 2 big losses that I don't think the fans are really willing to accept are bigger than what they actually are. Mark Pitnet, he's a solid contributor, but he's not a number 1 ruckman. And then you can't have Liam Reedy come in as a rookie having that load kind of dumped on his shoulders. Again, Harry Mackay, if you can successfully and continuously lock him down, who's going to be that standout key forward? I don't know. And obviously Jacob Wiedering's still up in the air with his injury as well. When does he come back? It's going to be an interesting watch, but I think Sydney kick off 2026 with a rather big win at home. Friday night, we're at People's First Stadium, Geelong, Gold Coast. We know the Gold Coast, when it comes to People's First, play a completely different brand. They are almost untouchable when it comes to this location. I feel the loss of Matt Rowell in this game is going to play into the scrimmage and the contested game a hell of a lot more than people are going to give it credit for. He is a tackling machine. He racks up clearances. Without that kind of pressure around the contest, who's going to stand up and do that role? Because Noah Anderson doesn't play that style. Do they have somebody else that can come into the midfield to play that role? Christian Petrarca, we still don't know how he's going to fit into this system. I still personally feel he's going to get the Dustin Martin treatment from Damien Hardwick. I honestly think Christian Petrarca is going to be one of those players that plays in the midfield out of necessity, but will get a lot of one-on-one time in the forward line, trying to break those chains, you know, get a good lead on, outmark a body closer to goal. Very Dustin Martin-like, you know, not having big stints in the midfield, but when he does, he's going to have that breakaway pace. He's going to be able to hit a target, and I think Christian Petrarca will fit that mold, but he might have to play more midfield time early because of the loss of Matt Rowell. For Geelong, Jeremy Cameron, does he come back into the game, you know, this given week? Is he still recovering? As far as I know, he's still recovering from that broken arm. We haven't seen him in State of Origin. We haven't seen him over the preseason. So is he ready to go? Are they saving him for round 0? Are they going to keep him in cotton wool until he gets better? I still have very strong opinions on the fact that he shouldn't have continued on in that fucking grand final. But hey, I'm not the coach. I'm not the player. I'm not the one making the moves behind the scenes. Geelong have players all around the ground that can really stand tall in this game, but if they're missing Jeremy Cameron, again, the brunt of the load falls on Shannon Neal, and he is a solid contributor. He really came into his own last year, but is he ready to be that standalone player? We've got Tanner Bruhn coming back in with missing 2025 for reasons, but is he going to add something? We've seen him get some midfield time. We've seen him run off the half-back line. Is Max Holmes going to get more prominent midfield minutes? With Bailey Smith now settling in at Geelong, how's he going to fare? This is going to be an interesting game. I am leaning the way of the Gold Coast purely based on location. If this was neutral ground, I would have actually been very tempted to go Geelong. I just think right now, without knowing the teams that have been announced, and obviously team lineup might dictate, you know, some changes down the line, but I think the Gold Coast at People's First will be very hard to knock off. You know, the additions of the likes of Jamara Ugle-Hagan, Christian Petrarca, are these the final pieces that Damien Hardwick has been looking for a premiership tilt? I don't know. We will soon find out. NG Stadium, Saturday afternoon, GWS taking on Hawthorn. Jai Newcomb has copped a 1-game suspension for a dangerous tackle on Ed Richards. I believe Hawthorn are going to be contesting that at the tribunal. I don't think he gets off. If he gets off, then it sets precedent for the rest of the year. He held the arm. The dangerous tackle was made. Whether or not there was enough force made in the tackle to cause injury, that can be thrown up in the air, but you still have to punish the action. If you don't want the action happening and you want it scrapped out of the game, you still need to punish the fact that the action was done. He still cops a week. If that is the case, Hawthorn are going to struggle in that midfield, even with GWS having no Josh Kelly on the outside, no Tom Green on the inside. Finn Callahan, does he come back into the mix here? Let's not forget, GWS actively brought in Clayton Oliver, who, yes, did have a very off year by standard last year at Melbourne, but a fresh location could be enough to, bring some rejuvenation to his career. He could really turn things around. His role that he played at Melbourne suits GWS incredibly well, especially when the likes of a Tom Green is currently missing. Clayton Oliver can step up into that role. Toby Green was thrown up by Adam Kingsley as a player who's going to get a lot more midfield exposure this year. With no Tom Green in the mix, Toby Green can now step up and really stamp his dominance on the game as well. He showed last year going into the midfield, he can get plenty of time on ball, he can rack them up, he'll set up the score involvements. I'm going to go as far as suggesting that Toby Green will end up best on ground in this game. 20 plus disposals, a couple of goals, at least 7 score involvements. He's going to be very influential in this game. I am going to back GWS. I just think as well, if Jai Newcombe is out, that is a midfield core that is very young, still very much in the mode of development, and while they have bolstered their defence, I still think the forward line of GWS is enough to cause headaches for that defensive structure of Hawthorn. Saturday night, Gabba, Brisbane, Bulldogs. Huge game. This is a game where Bulldogs can come out and assert dominance early to say they are here to play some decent footy in 2026. Very hard to see Brisbane losing at home though, but in saying that, Brisbane last year, more often than not, lost at the Gabba comparatively to actually winning at the Gabba, which is weird because Gabba's that fortress for Brisbane. We are just used to seeing them win, but we have seen them in shambles throughout that 2025 campaign at home. So the Bulldogs do have the possibility here of rocking up and doing some damage. I just think Brisbane are too primed to drop the first game at home. They'll unveil the premiership flag at home in this game. It's going to be a huge come home style moment for all the Brisbane fans. This is a big game for Brisbane. Josh Dunkley probably runs with Marcus Bontempelli, you would argue. Does Sam Darcy have it in him to finally break out and do some damage? We've got players coming back in for Brisbane that we haven't seen through that 2025 campaign. Kitty Coleman comes back in. Lincoln McCarthy comes back in. They've got the, the acquisition of Oscar Allen from West Coast. So even though, Oscar Allen maybe I feel has failed to deliver in recent years, but missing all that time through injury and whatever, he has opportunity now to show what he is truly capable of. With a midfield that is going to be able to hit him more often than not with the footy, he has the chance to take this forward line by the throat and absolutely dominate up there at the Gabba. I'm tipping Oscar Allen to kick 4 on debut for the Lions, and they are going to win quite comfortably. Final game of the round is at the MCG. Again, if you're going to be promoting games in Queensland and New South Wales, why have we landed at the MCG? We could have gone elsewhere. We could have gone over to WA. We could have had some games up at the Northern Territory. It's time to start really thinking about this. But we've got St Kilda hosting Collingwood at the MCG. Very interesting game here. We haven't seen Nick Dacos in any capacity outside of State of Origin, where he was robbed for best on ground. Let's not mince words. What we have seen from St Kilda during the preseason is that they are going to come to play. I was very bullish on whether or not St Kilda's acquisitions were going to be instant fixes for St Kilda. Are they going to instantly make them a better team, or is it just the case of bringing in star players and the team still faltering? But TDK in the ruck, I think, can really hone in on the new ruck rules. Liam Ryan adds a level of depth up forward. If you try to shut him down, Jack Higgins can get off the chain. If you shut down Jack Higgins, Liam Ryan can get off the chain. You've got Jack Silvani in defence. It's just going to be a very interesting watch. Sam Flanders now coming back in and doing some midfield time as well. Going to be very, very interesting to see how they man up, how they match up, and how they simulate this game here. Nasiah Wangani-Malira with midfield minutes. It's a big what if for St Kilda. This is the first time in a big capacity we're going to see all these players together really throwing everything against the wall and hoping it sticks. But if Ross Lyon is still very defensive centric in wanting that game style to be played, does it prevent St Kilda from moving forward? As far as Collingwood is concerned, they have obviously kept Nick Dacos in cotton wool. He played Origin, but they've kind of kept him off to the side since. They still have injuries to Darcy Moore, who I think misses opening round. Jeremy Howe misses the first couple of rounds. Bobby Hill missing due to personal reasons. But all the other players that didn't play in that 1-point loss to North Melbourne only a couple of days ago will all come back in. So you're going to have Nick Dacos back in. You're going to have Braden Maynard back in. You're going to have Dan McStay back in. All these players coming back in fit and firing. At their best, Collingwood wins this. Because I definitely feel Darcy Cameron is going to be one of those ruckmen this year that takes advantage of the new ruck rules as well. I feel Nick Dacos could be a hard matchup. I mean, Marcus Windhager probably runs with him, but with Josh Dacos potentially coming into the midfield for more minutes, Can he provide that X factor? We saw last year against Fremantle, for example, they were able to shut down Nick, but Josh Dacos went absolutely fucking bananas. That opens up the possibility for Dan Houston to now run off halfback and get back to his best. It's going to be a very interesting watch for both teams here, because we have St Kilda, who many are thinking could be a top 10 finish because of the acquisitions they've had. A lot of people thinking Collingwood are going to drop off, but I still think Collingwood's best is amongst the best in the comp. Very hard game to tip. I am ever so slightly leaning the way of Collingwood in this game. If it's going to be a win either side, it is going to be incredibly close and by slimmest of margins. But as you can see on screen, opening round tips, we can make edits whenever we want, but I have locked in Sydney by 27 against Carlton, Gold Coast against Geelong, GWS against Hawthorn, Brisbane against the Bulldogs, and Collingwood against St Kilda. But that is not all, because ladies and gentlemen, I have opened up another tipping competition for the year, and I would love for you to get on board. You can do so by doing the following. I have put a link in the description of this video. If you click it, it will bring you to this landing page here. You will be given a prompt to enter a competition pin, and in doing so, you will be automatically entered into the Hip and Shoulder 2026 competition. If you want that code, it is now on screen. It is this code right here, QBDIOK2U. That will also be down in the description below. So you can go to the website, copy that code, punch it in, get on board. We had a bit of a slow start to building a competition last year, but now that we're finding our feet, I would really love to build on what we had last year and make this year bigger and better. And it all starts with you getting involved. So I would appreciate it immensely if you took the time to do so. However, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's video. Do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do me a favor and hit that like button down below. If you're new around here and you want to get on board the community we're building together, feel free to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got any recommendations for content you would like to see that is AFL orientated, let me know in the comment section down below. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. Good luck to your teams this weekend, providing they're one of the 10 teams that have been selected and they're not sitting on the outskirts like my boys are. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.